The observation deck of the Krellian battlecruiser hummed with the satisfied murmur of victory. I stood there, all four of my appendages trembling slightly as I recorded the final moments of what we believed would be a routine planetary subjugation. My name is Vortex, Junior Tactical Analyst for the Krellian Dominion, and I have witnessed many species fall before our might. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what I was about to see. Commander Sealith stood at the primary viewport, his scales gleaming under the artificial lights. He was reviewing the interrogation footage with what I can only describe as smug satisfaction. The human female, designation Mira Kellaway, had stopped screaming approximately 14 minutes ago. Her vital signs had ceased entirely at the 18-minute mark. Standard procedure. Really. Extract information, eliminate resistance, move on to the next sector. Another successful operation, Sealith announced to the bridge crew, his voice carrying that particular tone of boredom that comes from doing something 1,000 times before. The human resistance on Colony 7 has been eliminated. Begin preparing the mining equipment. I should mention something about humans at this point. We had encountered them only 6 cycles ago and, frankly, we were not impressed. Soft bodies, single heart, limited regenerative capabilities, no natural armor, no venom sacs, no telepathic abilities. They were, by all our calculations, barely worth the energy cost of conquering. But their planet had titanium deposits that our empire needed. So conquer we did. The footage played on loop. Mira Kellaway had been captured along with her mate, a male designated Thomas Kellaway. Standard interrogation protocol. We wanted access codes to their defensive grid. The male had been difficult, resistant, actually managed to break his restraints twice before we properly secured him. So we made an example of him. Quick plasma burst, center mass dead in 2.3 seconds. That was when things got interesting. The female, Mira, she did not collapse in despair as our psychological profiles suggested she would. She did not beg or plead. Instead, something changed in her eyes. I noticed it even through the grainy footage, a kind of coldness that seemed fundamentally wrong on such a fragile-looking creature. She laughed, not hysterical laughter, not the broken sound of a shattered mind. It was low, quiet, almost conversational. "You have absolutely no idea what you just did," she said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "You really truly have no idea." Interrogator Cratch, a veteran of 40 campaigns, had seen this before. Denial, he called it. The psychological defense mechanism that humans employ when reality becomes too much to process. He continued the interrogation with increased intensity. "I will spare you the details. Let us just say that Cratch was extremely proficient at his job, and humans, for all their strange qualities, are remarkably fragile when it comes to physical trauma. Mira Kellaway died at 14:32 station time. Medical sensors confirmed complete cessation of brain activity. Her body was unceremoniously ejected into space through the waste disposal system. Thomas Kellaway had been similarly disposed of 17 minutes earlier. The data we extracted was minimal, but sufficient. The colony would fall within hours. I was returning to my quarters when the first alarm sounded. Proximity alert. The ship's artificial intelligence announced with its usual calm monotone. Unknown vessel approaching at 0.7 light speed. Configuration does not match any known design in our database. I rushed back to the observation deck. Commander Sealith was already there, his scales now rippling with the colors of confusion and mild concern. On the view screen, a ship was decelerating at speeds that should have turned any biological crew into liquid paste. It was small, maybe 1/20th the size of our battlecruiser, and it was headed directly for us. "Scan it," Sealith ordered. "Weapons status. Shield configuration. Crew complement." The tactical officer Bryn manipulated her controls with increasing agitation. "Sir, the scans are not making sense. The hull is composed of materials I have never seen before. Energy readings are off all our charts. And sir, there is only one life sign aboard." "One?" Sealith's voice carried amusement now. "Some fool on a suicide run. How tedious. Destroy it. Our weapons array capable of reducing a moon to dust fired in perfect synchronization. Plasma cannons, railguns, and antimatter missiles all converged on the tiny vessel. Enough firepower to obliterate a small fleet." The ship did not even slow down. Every single weapon passed through it as if it were not there. Not deflected by shields, not absorbed by armor. Simply passed through, hitting nothing but empty space. The ship continued its approach, now less than 1,000 units away. "What in the 17 hells?" Sealith breathed, and I noticed his scales had shifted to the purple of genuine fear. The communication system crackled to life without anyone activating it. A voice, human, female, terrifyingly calm. Krellian vessel, this is Mira Kellaway. I believe we have some unfinished business. The bridge went completely silent. I felt my primary heart skip several beats. Bryn checked and rechecked her instruments. Sir, that is impossible. Mira Kellaway is dead. We confirmed it. We disposed of the body ourselves, apparently, Xyleth said slowly. Your confirmation was premature. All weapons continuous fire. I want that ship reduced to atoms. For the next 6 minutes we threw everything we had at that vessel. Our entire weapons complement, enough destructive force to level a continent, and not a single shot connected. The ship moved through our weapons fire like smoke, untouchable, unstoppable, getting closer with each passing second. Then it stopped, just hung there in space directly in front of our primary viewport, close enough that we could see it clearly. The hull, if you could call it that, seemed to shift and ripple like liquid metal. There were no visible engines, no weapons ports, no markings of any kind. A light began to build around the ship, not bright, but wrong somehow. It had colors I had never seen before, colors that hurt to look at, colors that my brain could not properly process. Shields at maximum, Xyleth ordered, his voice cracking slightly. All power to defensive systems. The light pulsed once, and our shields simply ceased to exist. Not damaged, not overloaded. They were there one moment and gone the next, as if they had never been installed at all. Every defensive system on the ship went dark simultaneously. Then she appeared, not on a view screen, not as a hologram. Mira Kellaway simply stood there on our bridge, as solid and real as the deck beneath our feet. She looked exactly as she had in the interrogation footage. Same clothes, same tear-stained face, same blood, but her eyes, oh, her eyes were different now. They contained something vast and terrible and utterly beyond my comprehension. Xyleth grabbed his sidearm and fired point blank. The plasma bolt went straight through her, burning a hole in the bulkhead behind. She did not even glance at him. 37 minutes, she said, conversationally looking around the bridge as if she were on a casual tour. That is how long I have been dead. Well, by your understanding of death anyway. Humans discovered something about the universe that you folks have not figured out yet. Want to know what it is? Nobody answered. We were all frozen, caught between fight or flight responses that our brains could not properly execute. She smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. Death is not the end. It is not even really a pause. It is more like a door. And some of us, well, we learned how to open it from the other side. Bryn found her voice, though it shook badly. That is impossible. The laws of thermodynamics, conservation of energy, quantum coherence. You cannot simply reverse biological death. It defies everything we know about reality. Your reality, Mira corrected gently. See, that is the thing about humans. We have this nasty habit of breaking rules that other species think are absolute. We looked at the universe and said, no thanks, we will make our own rules. And the universe surprisingly was okay with that. She actually walked, despite the fact that she was clearly not entirely physical, over to where interrogator Cratch sat frozen at his station. She leaned down, putting her face inches from his. Hello again. Miss Cratch made a sound I had never heard before. Pure primal terror. Here is what is going to happen, Mira said, straightening up and addressing the entire bridge. I am going to ask you all some questions. You are going to answer them, completely, honestly, and then, maybe, just maybe, I will let some of you live. And before you get any ideas about fighting back or running away or calling for help, let me show you something. She gestured casually with one hand. Cratch, all 300 pounds of armored Krellian warrior simply came apart. Not violently, not explosively. He just ceased to be solid, dissolving into component atoms that drifted away like dust in a breeze. It took perhaps 2 seconds. He did not even have time to scream. That was for Thomas, she said quietly. My husband. Remember him? The man you killed right in front of me? Yeah, that was for him. Now then, who wants to go first? Commander Xyleth, to his credit, tried to maintain some composure. What do you want from us? Information, Mira replied. Starting with the location of every single Krellian military installation within 50 light-years. Then the command codes for your fleet. Then the names and locations of every officer involved in the attack on Colony 7. Then we will see where we go from there. And if we refuse, she laughed again, that same low, terrifying laugh from the interrogation footage. Commander, you are a military man. You understand leverage. Right now I am holding all of it. Your shields are gone. Your weapons cannot touch me. Your communications are cut off. I am literally standing inside your command center, and there is not a single thing you can do to stop me. But please, by all means, refuse. I have got 37 minutes of pent-up frustration I would love to work through. I found myself speaking before I could stop myself. What are you? You cannot be human. Humans are fragile, limited, mortal. Whatever you are now, it is not human. She turned those terrible eyes on me, and I felt my secondary heart stop completely. Oh, Vortex. Is it? Junior Tactical Analyst, age 23 cycles from the colonies of Krill Prime. You are right. I am not what I was. When I died, when I stepped through that door, I became something else, something more. But I am still human where it counts. Still remember being fragile and limited and mortal. Still remember loving my husband. Still remember watching him die. And that, my friend, is what makes me dangerous. She knew my name, my age, my homeworld. Information that was not in any accessible database. You are wondering how I know so much, she said, apparently reading my thoughts now. Death changes things, strips away barriers. I can see patterns in space-time that you cannot even imagine. I can read the probability waves of your decision trees. I can observe the quantum entanglement of every particle in your body. To me, you are all transparent. Open books written in languages I have only just begun to understand. Xylith slowly lowered his weapon. I saw the shift in his posture, the acceptance of reality. We were beaten. Completely and utterly. What guarantee do we have that you will spare anyone? Absolutely none, Mira said cheerfully. But here is the thing, Commander. I am not looking for guarantees or treaties or peace agreements. I am looking for justice. You came to our colony, killed our people, destroyed our homes, murdered my husband and tortured me to death. I am here to settle that account. Whether any of you survive the settlement, well, that depends entirely on how cooperative you choose to be. The next 4 hours were, without question, the most horrifying of my life. Mira Kellaway extracted every piece of information she wanted with terrifying efficiency. She did not need torture equipment or truth serums. She simply looked at you, into you, through you, and somehow knew if you were lying. Those who tried to deceive her stopped existing. Those who cooperated got to keep breathing, at least temporarily. She learned our fleet movements, our strategic weaknesses, our political structure, our supply lines, everything. And the worst part was, we gave it to her willingly, desperately, hoping that cooperation might mean survival. When she was done, she stood in the center of the bridge and closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them again, she looked almost sad. Do you know what the hardest part about coming back was? It was not the pain. It was not the disorient. It was remembering that I used to be afraid of death, that I used to think it was the end of everything. But now I know better. Death is just another state of being, and some of us can move between states like you move, between rooms. What happens now? I asked, surprised I could still speak. Now? She smiled again, though this time there was something almost human in it. Now I go pay a visit to the rest of your fleet, and after that to your homeworld. I am going to give your empire a choice. Leave human space forever, release all prisoners, pay reparations for damages, or learn firsthand what it means when humans refuse to stay dead. They will never agree, Xylith said hoarsely. The Dominion does not negotiate with conquered species. Then the Dominion will learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between conquest and genocide. Mira replied. 'Cause here is what you folks did not realize when you attacked us. Humans are not like other species. We do not just roll over and accept defeat. We do not go quietly into extinction. We fight. We adapt. We evolve. And when you push us far enough, when you take everything we love, we become something you cannot fight and cannot escape. We become inevitable. She began to fade, her form becoming translucent, less solid. Oh, and Vortex, you seem like a decent sort for an invader. Here is some free advice. When you get home, assuming I let you get home, tell your people what you saw here. Tell them that humanity is not prey. We are not resources to be harvested. We are the thing that refuses to die. We are the thing that comes back. Remember that. And then she was gone. Simply ceased to be there. The bridge lights flickered back on. Our systems began rebooting. Communications crackled to life with confused signals from other ships in the fleet wanting to know why we had gone dark. Commander Xylith stood very still for a long moment, then turned to me. Log everything that just happened. Every word, every detail. This information goes directly to High Command with Alpha Priority encryption. Sir, I said quietly. Do you think they will believe us? He laughed. A broken, hollow sound. No. No, I do not think they will believe us. Not until she starts appearing on their ships, and by then it will be far too late. He was right, of course. The report we sent was dismissed as stress-induced hallucination. Battle fatigue. Exposure to unknown human weapons causing temporary psychosis. They sent doctors to evaluate us. Psychiatrists to determine our fitness for duty. They did not believe, until 48 hours later, when Mira Kellaway appeared on the bridge of the flagship of the 7th Fleet, 200 light-years away from where we had encountered her. Then on 3 destroyers simultaneously. Then in the chambers of the High Council itself. Each time the message was the same. Leave human space. Release the prisoners. Pay reparations. Or face extinction. The Krellian Dominion, proud conqueror of 17 species, subjugator of 42 worlds, had never retreated from any conflict in its 800-year history. We retreated. We ran. Because we finally understood what we were dealing with. Not a species. Not soldiers. Not even warriors. We were dealing with an idea that had become flesh. A concept that refused to accept the fundamental rules of reality. We were dealing with humans who had learned to come back from death itself. And there is no defense against that. I am writing this from a refugee station on the Outer Rim, far from the conflict zones. Commander Xylith took his own life 3 days ago. Could not live with the memories, the fear, the knowledge that death was no longer a certainty but merely a temporary inconvenience for our enemies. Many others have done the same. As for me, I keep seeing those eyes. Those human eyes that had seen beyond the veil and came back changed. I keep remembering her words. Death is just a door. I wonder sometimes if she was telling the truth, if death is really just a transition, a change of state, something that can be reversed or bypassed or ignored entirely. And I wonder what kind of species discovers something like that and weaponizes it against their enemies. The humans, apparently. The terrifying, impossible, absolutely relentless humans. 3 weeks after my encounter with Mira Kellaway, I found myself in the strangest position of my military career. I was being sent back, not to fight, not to conquer, but to negotiate. The Krellian High Council, in their infinite wisdom and absolute desperation, had decided that someone needed to establish formal contact with the humans. Someone who had actually met one of their, and I quote, Deathwalkers and survived. That someone, unfortunately, was me. You will go to the human homeworld, Council Elder Thrax told me, his voice carrying all the warmth of a recycled air filtration system. You will request an audience with their leadership. You will negotiate terms for a ceasefire, and you will, under no circumstances whatsoever, provoke them further. They wanted to laugh. Provoke them? We had already killed them, tortured them, invaded their colonies, and generally behaved like the galactic bullies we had always been. What exactly was left to provoke? But I kept my mouth shut. In the Krellian military, you learn early that objecting to suicide missions is bad for career advancement, also bad for continued breathing. The ship they gave me was small, unarmed, and painted in the universal colors of diplomatic immunity. As if that would matter to someone who could literally walk through solid matter and dissolve people into atomic dust with a gesture. But protocol was protocol, and I was just following orders. The journey to Earth took 11 days. 11 days of reviewing every scrap of intelligence we had gathered on humanity, which, as it turned out, was embarrassingly little. We knew they were bipedal. We knew they had 1 heart, 2 lungs, and a distressingly fragile skeletal structure. We knew they bred slowly compared to most species. We knew their technology was roughly equivalent to ours, maybe slightly behind in some areas, slightly ahead in others. What we did not know was how they had managed to break the most fundamental law of the universe. The law that said dead things stayed dead. I had tried asking our scientists. They had no answers. Our best theoretical physicists could not even begin to explain what I had witnessed. Matter could not simply cease to be coherent, and then reconstitute itself at will. Consciousness could not persist after brain death. A biological entity could not phase through solid objects. These things violated everything from thermodynamics to quantum mechanics to basic logic, and yet, I had seen it happen. We all had. Earth appeared on my view screen exactly on schedule, a blue and white sphere hanging in the black like a jewel. It looked peaceful. Beautiful even. Completely at odds with what I knew its inhabitants were capable of. Approaching vessel, this is Earth Defense Coordination. A human voice said over the comm. Male, calm, professional. Please state your identity and purpose. I activated my translator matrix, hoping it would properly convey diplomatic humility in human language. This is Vortex of the Krellian Dominion. I am here under diplomatic protocols to request an audience with your governmental leadership. I am unarmed and alone. I wish only to talk. There was a pause, long enough that I started to wonder if they were just going to shoot me out of space and be done with it. Then the voice returned. Your request has been acknowledged, Vortex. Proceed to coordinates we are transmitting now. Deviate from this flight path by more than 10 meters and automated defenses will engage. Understood. Understood, I replied, feeling sweat begin to accumulate in my secondary moisture glands. They guided me to a landing platform in what my instruments identified as North America, somewhere in a region designated as Colorado. The facility was built into the side of a mountain. Massive blast doors opened just wide enough for my ship to slip through. As soon as I landed, the doors closed behind me with a finality that made my primary heart skip. I sat in my ship for a full 3 minutes, trying to gather courage. Finally, I opened the airlock and stepped out onto human soil for the first time. The reception committee was smaller than I expected. Just 5 humans, 4 of them in military uniforms, 1 in civilian clothes. The civilian stepped forward, a female with graying hair and eyes that reminded me uncomfortably of Mira Kellaway's, not the same terrible depth, but the same sharp intelligence. Vortex, she said, pronouncing my name better than my translator did with hers. I am Director Elizabeth Okoye, Head of Earth Defense and External Relations. Welcome to Earth. Under less horrific circumstances, I would say it is a pleasure. As it stands, I will settle for saying I am glad you had the courage to come. I performed the Krellian gesture of respectful greeting, which probably looked absurd to them. Director Okoye, thank you for receiving me. I know my people have given you every reason to simply kill me on sight. She smiled, but there was no humor in it. We considered it. There was quite a lively debate, actually. But ultimately we decided that talking was preferable to the alternative. For now, please follow me. They led me through corridors that went deep into the mountain. Security checkpoints, biometric scanners, armed guards at regular intervals, all very standard, very normal military protocol. It was almost comforting in its familiarity, until I remembered what these people could do when they decided normal rules no longer applied. We ended up in a conference room that was aggressively ordinary. Table, chairs, a water dispenser in the corner that I had no idea how to use. Director Okoye sat across from me and folded her hands on the table. Let me be direct, she said. Your people came to our colonies. You killed our citizens. You tortured and murdered Mira Kellaway and her husband Thomas. That act triggered a response that your empire apparently was not prepared for. Now you want to negotiate. Do I have that right? Yes, I said quietly. The High Council has authorized me to discuss terms for complete Krellian withdrawal from human-claimed space. They are prepared to release all prisoners and discuss reparations. Discuss, Okoye repeated. Interesting word choice. What exactly is there to discuss? You pay for what you destroyed. You return who you took. You leave and never come back. Seems pretty straightforward to me. I chose my next words very carefully. Director, I am authorized to agree to those terms in their entirety. The Council wants peace. They want this conflict to end. What they want, a new voice said from the doorway, is for us to stop killing them. I turned, and my blood went cold. Mira Kellaway stood in the entrance looking exactly as she had on my ship. Same clothes, same expression, same eyes that had seen death and laughed. Hello again, Vortex, she said pleasantly. Miss me? I honestly could not speak. My translator matrix made a sound like electronic choking. Okoye did not seem surprised by the interruption. Mira, I thought you were monitoring the outer colonies. I was, but when I heard our friend here was coming to visit, I thought I would drop by. Literally. She walked into the room, and I noticed something I had not seen before. She left no footprints, not even a slight impression on the carpet. She was not quite touching the ground. She sat down, or appeared to sit, in the chair next to Okoye. So, Vortex, how has your empire been sleeping lately? Getting enough rest? Or do they keep waking up screaming when they realize that death is no longer protecting them from consequences? Mira, Okoye said gently. We discussed this. Productive dialogue, remember? Right. Productive. Mira smiled at me and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Pain? Maybe. Or the memory of pain. Sorry, Vortex. I am still getting used to the whole not being consumed by murderous rage thing. Turns out dying horribly does things to your emotional regulation. Who knew? I found my voice, though it came out smaller than I intended. I am sorry for what happened to you, to your husband, to your colony. I know those words mean nothing, but I am sorry. She studied me for a long moment. You know what? I actually believe you. You were not there, were you? Not at the colony. You were just on that ship doing your job, following orders. The same orders that got my husband killed and got me turned into whatever I am now. She leaned forward, and I saw that flicker again. But here's the thing, Vortex. Sorry does not bring Thomas back. Sorry does not undo 37 minutes of experiencing my own death. Sorry is just a word people use when they want forgiveness they have not earned. What would earn it? I asked. What would make this right? Nothing, she said flatly. There is no making this right. Thomas is gone. Really gone. Not coming back, gone. I checked, believe me. Whatever happened to me, whatever door I walked through, he is not on the other side. So no, Vortex. Nothing makes this right, but your empire can at least stop making it worse. Okoye cleared her throat. Let me explain the situation as we see it. 3 weeks ago, your people attacked our colony. You killed civilians, including Mira and Thomas. That was a mistake, but we might have been willing to pursue traditional diplomatic channels. Then Mira came back, and everything changed. Changed how? I asked. Though I thought I knew. She is not the only one, Okoye said simply. We have had 17 confirmed cases of people returning from documented deaths in the last 2 weeks. We think the stress of the invasion, the trauma, it triggered something in our species, something that was always there. Dormant. Mira was just the first to figure it out. 17. My scales went pale. 17 Deathwalkers. We prefer the term returners, Mira said. But yeah, 17 and counting. Turns out, humans have this weird thing where extreme trauma sometimes unlocks abilities we did not know we had. Fight or flight response on steroids. Your people provided the trauma. We provided the response. I felt like the room was spinning. The High Council does not know this. They think you are unique. We know they do not know, Okoye said. We have been very careful about information control. But since you are here negotiating in good faith, we are telling you, consider it a gesture of trust. Or a threat. Whichever motivates your council more effectively. Both, I admitted. Definitely both. Mira stood up, or floated up. It was hard to tell. Walk with me, Vortex. Let me show you something. I looked at Okoye, who nodded. I followed Mira out of the conference room, down more corridors, until we reached what looked like an observation deck, overlooking a massive underground facility. Below us I could see humans. Dozens of them, and there was something off about them, something that made my threat detection instincts scream. Training facility, Mira explained. We are teaching the other returners how to control their abilities, how to phase through matter, how to manipulate quantum states, how to exist between life and death. It is a work in progress. Some pick it up faster than others. As I watched, one of the humans below simply vanished, completely ceased to exist, then reappeared 3 meters away. Another walked straight through a solid steel wall like it was not there. This is what your empire created, Mira said quietly. You wanted to conquer us, to take our resources, to use us as slaves or kill us as obstacles. Instead, you accidentally evolved us into something new, something that does not play by the old rules anymore. We made a mistake, I whispered. Oh, you made several mistakes, Mira corrected. But the biggest one was assuming we would just roll over and die like good little victims. Humans do not do that, Vortex. We are stubborn, spiteful even. Someone pushes us, we push back. Someone takes something from us, we take it back with interest. Someone kills us. She smiled that terrible smile. We come back angry. We stood in silence for a while watching the returners practice. Finally, I asked the question that had been eating at me since our first encounter. How? How is any of this possible? Honestly, we are not entirely sure ourselves, Mira admitted. Our best scientists think it has something to do with quantum consciousness. The idea that awareness is not localized in the brain but exists as a quantum field that interpenetrates with our physical form. When the body dies, normally that field dissipates. But under extreme conditions with the right mental state, some of us can hold that field together. Reconstitute it. Force it back into coherence with physical reality. That should not work, I said. That violates fundamental laws. Yeah, well, the universe is bigger and stranger than anyone's fundamental laws, Mira replied. We are learning that the hard way. The question is your empire willing to learn it the easy way? I turned to look at her directly. What do you want? Really? Not the council's official demands. What do you, Mira Calloway, want? She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, almost human again. I want Thomas back. I want to undo the last 3 weeks. I want to wake up in our apartment on Colony 7 and have this all be a nightmare. She closed her eyes. But I cannot have any of that, so I will settle for making sure no other human has to go through what I went through. I will settle for making sure your empire understands that we are not prey. We are not resources. We are people and we will not be exterminated. Quiet. The council will agree to all the terms. I said. Complete withdrawal. Released prisoners. Reparations. I will make sure of it. Good, Mira said. Because if they do not, I and the 16 other returners will personally visit every Krellian military installation in the galaxy, and we will not be negotiating. We will be demonstrating. Repeatedly. Permanently. We walked back to the conference room in silence. The negotiations took another 6 hours, but in the end, we reached an agreement. The Krellian Dominion would withdraw all forces from human space. All prisoners would be released. Reparations would be paid over a 10-year period. In exchange, humanity would cease offensive operations against Krellian targets and establish formal diplomatic relations. It was the most humiliating treaty in Krellian history. It was also the fastest any species had ever forced us to capitulate. As I prepared to leave Earth, Okoye shook my hand. An odd human gesture I had learned meant peaceful greeting. Thank you for coming, Vortex. I know this was not easy for you. It was necessary, I replied. Director, may I ask you something? Off the record? Of course. Are you afraid of what humanity is becoming? She considered the question seriously. Terrified, she admitted. We have unlocked something we do not fully understand. Created people who exist half in death. Changed the fundamental nature of what it means to be human. Yes, I am afraid, but I am also hopeful, because we are choosing to use this power defensively. We are choosing not to become the monsters we fought against, and if that choice changes, then the universe should be very, very afraid, she said simply. I flew back to Krill Prime with the signed treaty and a head full of nightmares. The High Council accepted the terms without debate. They had no choice. Reports were coming in from across the Empire. Returners appearing on ships, on stations on colony worlds, always with the same message, leave humanity alone. 3 months later, the last Krellian soldier left human space. The prisoners came home. The first reparation payment was transferred. The war, if you could call it that, was over, but the fear remained. Still remains. Because we know now what we did not know before. We know that humans are not like other species. They do not follow the rules we thought were absolute. They change. They adapt. They evolve in response to pressure. And when you kill them, sometimes they come back. I retired from the military shortly after. Could not stomach it anymore. Could not look at battle plans without thinking about Mira Calloway's eyes. Could not discuss conquest without wondering what other species might have similar hidden capabilities waiting to be unlocked by the trauma we inflicted. I work now as a teacher. I tell young Krellians about the human war, though we did not call it that officially. I tell them about the species that refused to die. I tell them about the importance of diplomacy over domination, negotiation over conquest. Most importantly, I tell them about Mira Calloway, the human female who died and came back 37 minutes later, the one who changed everything. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder about her. Wonder if she ever found peace. Wonder if she is still out there, phasing between life and death, carrying the weight of what she became. Wonder if she ever forgave us. Even a little. I doubt it. Humans are not known for their forgiveness, but they are known for their persistence, their refusal to accept defeat, their absolute, stubborn, terrifying insistence on survival against all odds. That is what we learned. That is what cost us an empire. The simple truth that some species, when pushed to the edge of extinction, do not fall into the dark. They come back from it, changed, empowered, inevitable, and absolutely unquestionably not to be messed with ever again. The Krellian Dominion had conquered 17 species across 800 years. We had subjugated 42 worlds. We had considered ourselves the apex predators of the galaxy. Then we met humanity. And we learned, far too late, that there is always something higher on the food chain. Something that does not die when killed. Something that turns death itself into a weapon. We learned that some prey when cornered becomes the predator, and that lesson cost us everything we thought we knew about the universe and our place in it. I live with that knowledge every day. The knowledge that we created our own worst nightmare. That we gave birth to our own defeat by pushing too hard. Taking too much. Killing too carelessly. The irony is almost poetic. We tried to make an example of humanity to show the galaxy what happens to species that resist the Krellian Dominion. Instead, humanity made an example of us, and the galaxy is watching. Learning, wondering what other species might have similar capabilities locked away in their genetic code, waiting for the right trigger, the right trauma, the right moment of absolute desperation to unlock powers we cannot imagine. I hope for all our sakes that no one is stupid enough to find out, but I know better. Someone always pushes too hard. Someone always goes too far. Someone always makes the same mistake we did, and when they do, when they murder the wrong person from the wrong species at the wrong time, they will learn what we learned. That death is not always the end. Sometimes it is just the beginning of something far worse. Something that comes back. Something that remembers. Something that will not stop until justice is served, one way or another. The humans call it being a returner. The rest of the galaxy has started calling it the Kellaway effect, named after the first. The phenomenon that changed everything we thought we knew about life, death, and the space between.
Me? I just call it terrifying. And I am grateful every single day that humanity chose mercy over vengeance. That Mira Kellaway and the others stopped at negotiation instead of extinction. Because make no mistake, they could have exterminated us. Could have walked through our defenses, our fleets, our homeworld itself, and turned every Krellian to dust. But they did not. They chose to be better than we were. Better than we deserved. That, more than anything, is what haunts me. Not their power, not their abilities, but their restraint. Their choice to stop when they could have continued. Their decision to be merciful when mercy was the last thing we had earned. It makes me wonder what humanity will become in the centuries ahead. If this is just the beginning of their evolution into something beyond our comprehension. If one day they will transcend physical form entirely and become something we cannot even classify. But that is a problem for future generations. For now, I teach, I warn. I remind everyone who will listen that there are lines you do not cross. Species you do not provoke, and powers you do not awaken, because sometimes when you kill someone they come back, and when they do they bring all of death's terrible knowledge with them. That is the lesson. That is the legacy. That is what the Krellian Dominion learned at the cost of an empire. Humanity cannot be conquered, cannot be suppressed, cannot be killed. They are the species that walks between worlds, the people who turn death into a door instead of a wall. They are the returners, and we are all living in their universe now.